What a massive week in Bitcoin and crypto, folks. What a massive week. Is this the end? Is this finished? Is the bull market all over? Let's have a big look at the entire crypto market. What's happening to Bitcoin? What's happening to Ethereum? First of all, what's causing all this? No one has given you guys a good answer. I've pretty much said for quite a few months now that the US economy is in trouble. And what I will crash was essentially front-running this thing. Look at that. You might not think this is important, but yeah, that's why cryptos are crashing. This is Federal Reserve itself, one of the branches from Atlanta, measuring the GDP as we speak. They're not waiting until like March to give you that number. They're giving it to you in real time. It's just dropped off a cliff face from like 2.3% to minus 1.5%. Minus 1.5%. That's, I don't know what you call it, recession, because it's basically just going, well, the economy is growing at 2.3% a year, which isn't great, but at least it's growing. And then as soon as the president comes in, goes to minus 1.5%. Well, as I said in my last video, whether you like Trump or you like Biden, I don't care. I'm not a supporter of either of them. But what has happened is basically Trump is literally cutting jobs, right? We can't argue with that. He's literally cutting jobs. With Elon Musk doing Doge, when you cut jobs, the economy has less jobs. Whatever the government cuts, they're saying his wish list is cut to up to 1 million jobs. And yeah, that's great for the long run. For the longer run, that's great for America, for any government probably, to be more efficient, to cut the fat. But in the short run, how are you going to make up for that 1 million jobs? Let's say even if you can, the private sector of US can make up for 1 million jobs. Then what happens is you have zero job growth. You literally cut 1 million and you add 1 million. So that's zero job growth. Remember how that job number with P jobs added, non-farm payrolls that we look at every single, it adds something like 200,000, 300,000 jobs. Even in a weak economy, we're going to zero, even if you add 1 million jobs in the private sector. So that's something I've been warning about. And this is what's causing the stock market to tank. And when the stock market tanks, then we see Bitcoin front running it, because as I explained in my last video, they see Bitcoin as sort of a high leverage or high beta tech stock. It's basically front running Magnificent Seven, the stocks dropping. And those Magnificent Seven stocks, the stock market is front running the US GDP nosediving. But is it all over? Is this the end? Can Bitcoin go down, right? It's down like 28, 30% right now and come back. Most importantly, can alt seasons come back? Ethereum is down like 50% now. Can Ethereum be down 50% and still come back? First of all, I had folks ask me in my Discord today, is it over? Is it going to be a bounce from 73K? I'm not shy from making big calls. So if I thought Bitcoin was going to 20K, I would say it's going to 20K. The bull market is over. I said the target is around 73K. And if we get there, we are still in an uptrend. We are still in a bull trend. Why is that? It's really simple. You basically have a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low at 73K or 72K bounce. And then you can still make a higher high. Literally the definition of a bull market. And look at this, supporting trend line is not broken. Higher high, higher low. Now, in terms of pullbacks, we went from 109K down to 73K. That's what 36K drop. Percentage-wise, that would be like a 31, 32% drop. Big deal. Even that is from 73K down to 49K. That's like a 24K drop. But percentage-wise, that's probably like a 30-something% drop as well. Like Bitcoin's full of these 30% drops and it comes back. Like, look at this. This is last bull run. This was the top at 64K and then the drop was down to 28K. That's easily over 50%. Over 50% and it comes back. This is a double top, 64K, 69K. This is what happened last bull run. I don't think cycles repeat what happened last cycle. If this is what happened last bull run, then I don't think this will repeat this bull run. So I don't think it'll be a double top like this. But then you're saying, okay, well, if it's not going to be a double top, then what could happen? One, we could have a right shoulder. You could have a massive left shoulder, head, right shoulder, so a bounce to something like tag, say 92K, or even tag here, 9900K, pull everyone back in, and then go down. That's one possibility. Or what could happen is, it could be like the 2013 bull run. Let me just pull your attention to the 2013 bull run. This is one bull run that started in something like October 2011, ended November 2013. It looks pretty small. That's because I'm using a logarithmic chart. Let's say if I use a regular chart, that's what this pullback looks like. So in the middle, this was from April 1st, and then it went to the high here. In this red bar here, the high was $259 for Bitcoin, 260. The low, $45. That's moved to the week after. What's the low here? The low here was $50. So from 260 down to $50. That's like an 80% crash in the middle of a bull market. And even down here, the low here was 63. That's still like a 70% plus 75% crash from high here. Crashes 70%, crashes 80%, and then goes on to make another high. So we cannot rule out Bitcoin. This was a 70-80% crash, and then it goes up and continues the bull market. This is April up to the final top in November. Let's have a look at 2017 bull run. This was December again, ended on a high. Let's just randomly pick a pullback. Let's have a look at this one. This looks pretty small, but this is logarithmic chart. So this is $2,967, almost $3,000. And what's the pullback? Oh, it's 1830. That's 35-40% pullback. So in theory, what could happen is we could have a move down here. That would only be a 32% pullback, and you could still have a big run here. And when it runs, it may not even top out at 109K. A repeat of 2013 bull run will be something like this. For example, 130, 140. That could easily happen. I would be surprised if it ended in November and December, just like every other time. I would think it would end earlier. Well, I would certainly think much more seriously about running, folks, if we got to that stage. Because so far the bull market ended in about November, December every time. That's a bull market, right? Until we have a right shoulder, a bounce, right shoulder, gets rejection, and then breaks this level of support around the 70s, breaks this red trend line, we don't have any right to call it a bear market yet. And then you're just purely guessing that this is the top, and we're going to go into lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. There's not much evidence of that yet, except I keep on warning you guys about the fact that US stocks could be in a lot of trouble. Why? Because GDP now. You might think that's boring, but GDP is tanking because of all the reasons we've been talking about, because Trump cutting jobs, cutting government spending. That's a good thing. But in the short term, we can all agree that's literally going to be cutting some jobs. Right? People are asking me, well, how's the NVIDIA earnings going to do? Because when this stock tanks, the US stock market is basically broken. It basically ends the bull run for the US stocks, and that means Bitcoin tanks. Let me put it on a daily scale. It reported better than expected earnings, better than expected revenue, better than expected margin. It was a great earnings call, and yet it went down 8% the next day. Like it reported after the bell on this day, and the next day it went down 8%. So this was something that I had drawn in mid to late December. As DeepSeek was coming out, I said DeepSeek is basically going to kill this bull market. Right? And this is the pattern I've drawn. So that's something to watch out for. If you have a reason to say that the bull market is over, then the two reasons I could think of is one, that the NASDAQ bull run is over because US jobs, US economy is going down now. Or reason number two is the NASDAQ is led by this NVIDIA stock, and NVIDIA is topping now because DeepSeek has essentially ended the whole GPU hyperscale business model of NVIDIA. And so the whole AI narrative on Wall Street is kind of ending right now. That would be valid excuses. That's always possible. We're looking at probabilities. Okay, I'll give you one more thing to think about, to chew over. This is the greed and fear index. Right now, we're ticking around 17 or 18. Extreme fear. This is for the stock market. For crypto, it's also in the extreme fear area. But this would have been a year ago, March the 1st. And since a year ago, this is pretty much the worst or the second worst. No, I would say that's the worst. We got to 16 yesterday. What was this? 17. So it's pretty much the worst in a year. And it's worse than August the 5th. Did you see that? That's August the 5th. What happened on August the 5th? August the 5th was when Bitcoin crashed to 49K. And it was due to the Japanese yen reverse carry trade blowing up. So Japanese yen carry trade blowing up. Let me just quickly show you guys. It was basically this candle here. This here was August the 5th. Right? And this was July 20. Well, yeah. So basically we had 2 weeks of crash and boom, we ended up here. So at the time, I said this was shoulder, head, shoulder. And that actually turned out to be the exact bottom when fear was that much. The sentiment was that bad, when people were that scared. I actually told everyone this was shoulder, head, shoulder. You got to 94K. And everyone cheered when it got above 100K. I said it would take weeks, if not a month, to confirm above 100K. And we just kept on flirting with 100K, and boom, we got rejected. Why did I say it would take weeks or a month to confirm above 100K? Let's turn it onto a monthly chart. This is what I showed everyone. On the monthly chart, basically, if we string up the 2017 bull run high, 2021 bull run high, and the 2025, 24 bull run high right now, it shows this trend line, which is high at around 108, 109K. And I told folks just to watch out because we're going to have a big rejection here. We have a big pullback, but it doesn't mean the bull market is over. And basically, this is a monthly chart. Look at this, the massive topping tail. Warn about that as well. And so I kept on saying this line, this neckline should not be broken. If it's broken, we're going to 73K. So basically, fear is very high right now in the stock market, in crypto. This could be easily the bottom of another massive bounce up to at least tag 100K. And if 2013 cycle plays out again, it could actually make a new high. So in conclusion, It's not bearish on Bitcoin yet. Now, Ethereum is a lot more bearish looking, or not as strong, or weaker looking, I should say, because it did actually break this trend line. See this rising trend line that supported Ethereum during the whole bull run? It did break it. But you could still argue that this was higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, equal high, kind of an equal low. So it's stuck in a sideways range and then could break out. Let's assume the worst. Let's assume a bear market has started for Ethereum and this was the top, double top, whatever. If that's the case, then support at 2135, the support at 2000, and we should at least get a bounce to something like 2750 or even like 2900, something like that. Break down, bounce back to retest the rising support line and then go down, something like that. If Bitcoin does a right shoulder, then ETH would do a retest around high 2000s, something like 2900, 2800, and then break down. If that's the case, I don't think it goes down in a straight line. In the worst case scenario, we'll probably still get a big bounce and then go down. That's if the bull market is over. But what if Bitcoin does another big run? Nothing on the Bitcoin chart technically tells us that it is over yet. Let's have a look at Ethereum, just even this during this pullback. So this high we had 12 months ago was 4,4095, so almost 4,100. Almost 4,100, and the low here was 2112. So that was 50% drop. Here, once again, the high was 4108. The low so far is 2,074, so that's like a 49% drop as well. And remember, Ethereum bounced up to here. Let's have a look at Ethereum history. For example, this is when Bitcoin was at 64K and then dropped to 28K. Look at this drop. So during the last bull run, high was almost 4,400. Low here is 1,700. Halfway point would be a 2190 around here. That's 50%. And it basically went like down 65%. And then it came back and made a new high. And that was actually a really big coin bull run. However, there's one big difference. And that is Ethereum never broke its supporting trend line. This time it has. It has broken its supporting trend line. So I would just be careful of that. So then we say, well, in the worst case scenario, bull run's over, but would probably still have a big bounce and retest here. Or if Bitcoin runs to 130K, 140K, which could easily happen, you could still have some sort of run like this. It's difficult for me to imagine that Ethereum goes kind of down, down, down like this, whilst Bitcoin goes up, 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 up to 130, 140K. Let's have a look at Ethereum history. Okay, this is the 2017 bull run just here. And in the middle, this is Ethereum. Let's see this pullback. This is a logarithmic chart. So I'm going to put it on regular so you can see what kind of a pullback that is. Okay, the high was 414. The low was 135. So that's way larger than 50%. That's something like a 65% pullback, and then still made its way and continued for another high, and then another high. Well, let's have a look at this one. Let's have a look at this one as well. Here, the trend line was broken as well. Let's have a look at this pullback. Okay. The high was 21.5. The low was 6.2. Again, that's like a 65% pullback, almost 70%. In other words, if we look back in Ethereum history, it also had like a 65-70% pullback, broke the supporting trend line, broke the rising supporting trend line, and then went up, and then had another 65% pullback, and then went up. Finally topped something like January 2018. So you could argue, oh, that was the old Ethereum, whatever. But just remember this: Ethereum runs 400 billion here, and it's like more like 200 billion in market cap here. This is much smaller than where Bitcoin was last cycle. When Bitcoin was doing this run here from 64K down to 28K, that was like a 55%, even 60% drop. It was much smaller than where Bitcoin was. Bitcoin was already like closing on being $1 trillion asset when this drop happened. When this drop happened, Bitcoin was like 2 or 3x larger than Ethereum. So in crypto, even this is something that was much larger. This is a crypto asset, cryptocurrency that was 2 or 3x larger than where Ethereum is now, and it made like 50 to 55% drop, and then came back and made a new higher high. Of course, the key difference being, you could probably say it didn't break the rising supporting trend line. But if you have to be strict, let's just say, use this one and this support. You could also say, oh yeah, Bitcoin broke the support. Look at this. That's the bottom. That's the support. Support, bounce, broke that support, and it kept on retesting that supporting trend line, retesting that supporting trend line, went to 69K.